Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of The Guys Who Stare at Stats. I'm Cade Kennedy, here with you on Halloween night because it's the first Tuesday of the college football playoff rankings being released, something we'll do every Tuesday all the way until that selection Sunday, coming in here and discussing the playoff rankings. And folks, as always, if you enjoy this type of content, feel free to like the video, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment down below because always with the playoff rankings, there's a lot of discussion to have here. And I mean, let's just get to it. You look at the top four, obviously, where everyone wants to be. Ohio State number 1, Georgia 2, Michigan 3, Florida State 4, and then Washington and Oregon as your first two looking out at 5 and 6, respectively. Now, the big thing here, obviously, I think the main takeaway everyone's going to have from this, you could see it pretty clearly. Ohio State, with their two big wins they have over Notre Dame and Penn State, they're going to be valued more than Georgia right now. And that's one of those things that I've seen people debating. Georgia's a two-time defending national champs. They're 8-0. They dismantled Florida and scored 43 without Brock Bowers, who's their best weapon by far. If you're a Georgia fan, though, I wouldn't fret too much about this. I mean, you have your chances lined up in a row. You're still going to play Missouri. You're still going to play Tennessee. You still have Ole Miss waiting in the wings. You have a lot going on still if you're Georgia. And then Michigan at 3, that was another big one where some people wanted to look at, is Michigan going to get punished for Spygate or the sign stealing and everything going on? The answer seems to be no. Michigan is 3 because they have legitimately played nobody right now. And I think it's a similar situation to Georgia where Michigan's going to play Penn State still. They still have Ohio State at the end of the year. Michigan's chances to get those big wins, which they're favored in at least one of those games. You know, Michigan fans, they have the belief that they're going to go 12-0 this year. Ohio State fans think they can go 12-0. It's going to set up another big classic rendition of the game we're all expecting at this point. The interesting one is Florida State. Because Florida State, they have that win over LSU. They have a good win over Duke. But if you notice and look down here, and we'll talk about it a little bit with Louisville as well, there's no Duke anywhere. That win does not mean as much right now in the committee's eyes, as you can clearly see. So Florida State staying at 4, but Florida State, I don't think anyone's challenging them in the ACC right now. The way Florida State has set themselves up, they should go undefeated. They should win the ACC, and they should be 13-0 going into Selection Sunday. Washington and Oregon. It is as simple as this for both of them. You just need to win out. Win out. The situation will take care of itself. It's just you worry about especially Washington, I think, more than Oregon now with how the Huskies played against Arizona State, how they've played against Stanford. They're starting to look shaky every single week now after that Oregon game. And Washington still has to play a USC. They still have to play Utah, who is banged up. But right after that physical game against Utah, you have to go to Corvallis and play Oregon State. Oregon State will also play Oregon as well, so that'll be fun to see how the Beavers still have a little bit of opportunity to cause some chaos in the final year of the Pac-12 as we know it. Texas is 7, Alabama 8, OU 9, and Ole Miss at 10. Ole Miss getting the bump there in the AP poll. The Rebels were 11. Here they get that friendly extra nudge up to 10. And some people I saw were talking about this. Some people are upset Oklahoma beat Texas. Texas beat Alabama. Why is one set up that way? And I think it's pretty simple. Oklahoma lost to Kansas. They have the worst loss of the three. You know, it's one of those, I don't really see why there's a discussion here because once again, and yes, it's the first one. You're going to hear me say this a lot, and it's going to lessen as we get through every single one of these. Where we're at right now is going to change a lot. If you just keep on winning, things are going to work themselves out, no matter who you are in that force situations there between 7 and 10. And then we get to 11, and this is usually where things get interesting because there are teams that sometimes feel like they absolutely deserve to be there, or the committee seems to be way off and nobody can figure out a real good reason why. So 11 through 25 is always kind of that fun zone, so to speak, and we start with Penn State at 11, Missouri 12, Louisville 13, LSU 14, and Notre Dame at 15. One of those, Louisville, they're the weakest of those 7-1 in that group there. I understand it. Missouri's losses to LSU was right there. Louisville got beat by Pittsburgh. And, I mean, that's a game that I still don't know how Louisville lost it. I watched it happen live, and I don't know how they lost a game like that. But Louisville has that win over Notre Dame. That's their saving grace right now. And if you're the Cardinals, you just have to continue to keep on doing what you're doing. Because if you can get to that 11-1 spot, you have an opportunity then to throw down with Florida State and try to battle for the ACC. We'll see if the Cardinals can keep it up. Missouri, they have their test already this week. They go to Georgia. You'll hear me talk about it more when we do our college football preview show for this week. Georgia nearly lost to Missouri last year in Columbia. That was the one game Georgia kind of looked shaky in. With Georgia being at number 2, I expect that to be a intriguing game, to say the very least, when the Tigers and the Dogs meet. And then Penn State being at 11, I think some of this comes from the fact that, yes, you lost to Ohio State, and then you struggle with Indiana. That's a game that was tied with 3 minutes left. Indiana's been terrible this year. That's one of those, if you're a Penn State fan, you're scratching your head thinking, how in the world was this a one-possession game with a minute left? How is this a game we were struggling in? You look at 16 through 20, it's Oregon State, Tennessee, Utah, UCLA, and USC. I know USC's been one of those questions that some people, why are they ranked? They're 7-2. They're still a fun offense. You don't want to look at that defense. That Alex Grinch defense is sad to see at times. Gave up 49 to Cal, nearly gave up 51 if one play goes differently. But they were able to hold on that two-point conversion at the end to stay at 7-2, and really the only reason they're ranked right now. UCLA, they had a big win against Colorado. They did what they were supposed to in their primetime spot. Utah, absolutely blasted by Oregon. This is a Utah team that has been running on fumes all season. It was going to catch up to them eventually. When you're running essentially what feels like third stringers and second stringers out there, when you play a quality team like Oregon, that is going to happen at some point. That's nothing really Utah can do in that situation. Tennessee, they got a big win at Kentucky. They held on for dear life and escaped Lexington on a Saturday night. That's really all you can do against a scrappy team like Kentucky. Tennessee bounced back, made the correct adjustments, and was able to win that game. And Oregon State, you want to talk about the desert comes for everybody? It happened again to Oregon State. They go out to Arizona. They have a game where they attempt a fake field goal before halftime in a tie game, and they lose by 3. Had an opportunity to maybe go to overtime if you rethink that decision, and it was a fake field goal you had already shown your hand on before getting called for a penalty. I don't know what Oregon State was doing there in that situation, but at the same time, they dropped down from where they were nearly top 10 in the AP poll last week. Here they're 16. You look at the Final 5 now. Kansas, Oklahoma State, Kansas State, Tulane, and Air Force. The Big 12 getting 3 in there. Kansas, they deserve it. Big win over Oklahoma. Great game for Kansas. They were able to battle through everything going on. Lost some defensive tackles in that game. But Jason Bean, he made 2 critical mistakes, but when he got that third chance, he was able to drive down the field. He made some big plays in that game. He's a backup, but, man, he does not feel like it at times. He was able to play well. Jayhawks, well-deserved win there. Kansas State is 23. They have the big showdown with Texas. That'll be your big noon game. And then Oklahoma State 22 to jump one back up. OSU, first time we've seen them this year. They have Ollie Gordon at running back. If you don't know who Ollie Gordon is, you're going to get to know him this week in Bedlam. That should be a lot of fun. I'm excited. I get to go to that game. It'll be an amazing atmosphere. We'll talk about that a little bit later on this week and next week for sure as well. That's going to be fun. That's kind of one of those sleeper games. If you're not in the know of how weird is Bedlam going to be this year, it's going to be about like every single other Bedlam, it feels like. It's going to be a wild game. Oklahoma State, they've come a long way from that South Alabama and Iowa State back-to-back. That bye week has really turned OSU into a different team right now. And then Tulane and Air Force. A little bit of group of 5 controversy here. Air Force has been undefeated. They're 8-0. They've been a fun team to watch. They keep finding ways to win. Tulane, their only losses to a top 10 Ole Miss. Tulane, they're the same way. They're 7-1. We know what Tulane did in the Cotton Bowl last year. It's going to come down to, Should you be penalized for losing to a top 10 team? The committee says no. That's why Tulane is on top of Air Force. But, folks, once again, looking at this whole thing, I think the main takeaway right now is we finally know where the committee stands on this thing. We have finally gotten to this point in the season. Maction's on tonight as well. We are about to get to November, and it's about to be the best time of the year for college football. So, folks, you're going to want to stay subscribed to the channel. Like I said earlier, feel free to like the video, subscribe once again, leave a comment down below. Just a little bit of a channel update. I apologize for not getting anything out for the last 3 weeks. I have been extremely busy. Andrew has, Ely has. We've all been pretty busy here trying to get everything done in the midst of, being at college, doing all that sort of stuff. But as things get more and more intense, we have the World Series going on, the NBA's back, all these other fun things going on at the same time. We will get some more content out. I promise you on that. We will get things going. But as always, folks, hope you enjoyed the video. And until next time, have a good one, everybody.